Captain James Wilson's boots echoed against the metal floor of the U.S. Defiance Bridge. His hands were clasped behind his back as he watched the massive display screen before him. Red dots blinked across the screen, showing enemy ships moving through the solar system. Each dot represented an alien vessel that had somehow broken through Earth's outer defense network. "Status report," he ordered, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Lieutenant Emma Davis looked up from her station, her face lit by the blue glow of her screen. "Sir, we've counted 37 Meridian warships passing Neptune's orbit. They're moving fast, much faster than we expected." Wilson nodded, taking in the information. The Defiant was humanity's newest and most powerful battleship, but even she would have her hands full with those numbers. The ship herself was a marvel of engineering, nearly a mile long, with weapons that could tear through the strongest known metals. "Message from Earth Command, sir," called out Communications Officer Laura Mitchell. Her fingers flew across her keyboard as she put the transmission on the main screen. Admiral Rebecca Thompson's face appeared, looking tired but determined. "Captain Wilson, I'll be brief. The Meridians have hit our Mars colonies. Early reports show heavy damage to the main dome cities. We've got thousands of civilians in danger." Wilson's jaw tightened. Mars had been humanity's first real colony, home to over 50,000 people. "Your orders, Admiral." "You're to take the Defiant and lead our counterattack. The 5th and 7th Fleets will back you up, but you'll be first in. The Defiant is the only ship we have that might be able to go toe-to-toe with their larger vessels." "Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down." As the transmission ended, Wilson turned to his crew. Every face on the bridge showed a mix of fear and determination. These were the best Earth had to offer, trained professionals who had earned their places on humanity's most advanced warship. "Engineering report," Wilson called out. Chief Engineer Michael Roberts' voice came through the speakers. "Main reactor at full power, Captain. All weapons systems green. The new Thunder system is, well, it's as ready as it's going to be." The Thunder weapon was their ace in the hole, a combination of human innovation and reverse-engineered alien technology. They'd built it from pieces of a crashed Meridian scout ship found on Titan 3 years ago. Whether it would work in actual combat was another question entirely. "Multiple distress calls coming in from Mars, Captain," Mitchell reported, her voice shaking slightly. They're hitting the civilian sectors first." Wilson walked to the front of the bridge, looking at the tactical display. The red dots of the Meridian fleet were spreading out, taking up attack positions around the red planet. They were using standard military tactics, which meant they weren't just mindless killers. They were intelligent, organized, and that made them even more dangerous. "Plot an intercept course," Wilson ordered. "All hands to battle stations." The ship's alarm began to sound, 3 long tones followed by a short one. Throughout the massive vessel, crew members ran to their posts. In the weapon bays, ammunition was loaded. In medical, Dr. Rachel Cooper and her team prepared for casualties. In engineering, Roberts and his crew ran final checks on their systems. The Defiant's engines hummed to life, the powerful ship turning toward Mars. On the tactical display, friendly blue dots began to appear as the 5th and 7th Fleets moved to join them. "Message to all hands," Wilson said, pressing a button on his chair. His voice echoed throughout the ship. "This is your captain speaking. In the next few hours, we will engage an enemy that threatens not just our colonies, but Earth itself. The Meridians believe we are weak, that we will break before their advanced technology. They are wrong." He paused, watching as his crew worked with practiced efficiency. "Humanity has faced challenges before. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and our own worst tendencies. We've reached for the stars and made them our home. We will not let any force, no matter how powerful, take that from us. Stand to your posts. Remember your training. Together, we will show these aliens what humanity is capable of." The ship accelerated, pushing toward Mars and the waiting enemy fleet. On the tactical display, the distance between the blue dots and red dots grew smaller. Wilson sat in his command chair, his mind already working through battle strategies. "Weapons, stand by," he ordered. "Let's show them why you don't mess with Earth." The battle for Mars, and perhaps humanity's future, was about to begin. Lieutenant Emma Davis stared at her tactical screen until her eyes burned. Something about the Meridian Fleet's movement pattern didn't make sense. The alien ships were arranged in what looked like a standard attack formation, but there was a gap, a weakness that seemed too obvious to be real. "Captain," she called out, drawing James Wilson's attention. "I think I've found something." Wilson walked to her station, his footsteps heavy in the tense silence of the bridge. "Show me." Emma pointed to her screen. "Look at their formation. They're protecting their flanks heavily, but there's a clear path to their center ships. It's like they're inviting us in." "A trap," Wilson said, his eyes narrowing. "That's what I thought too, sir. But I've been watching their ship movements for the last hour. The gap isn't just for show. Their ships physically can't move to cover it. Their engines give off a unique energy signature when they turn, and these ships—" She highlighted several enemy vessels on her screen. "They're struggling. Something's limiting their movement." Down in engineering, Chief Engineer Michael Roberts was facing his own challenge. The Thunder weapon system hummed dangerously, its stolen alien technology fighting against the human components they'd built around it. "Adjust power flow to compensator 3, he shouted, wiping sweat from his forehead. His team rushed to follow his orders, their movements quick but careful. One wrong move could tear a hole in the ship's hull. "Chief, the containment field is fluctuating," called out his assistant, Tom Parker. "If we push it any harder—" "We don't have a choice," Roberts cut him off. "That weapon is the only thing that might give us an edge against their shields. Keep it stable." Back on the bridge, Wilson had made his decision. "Lieutenant Davis, send your analysis to all fleet commanders. Mr. Roberts, status on Thunder." "It's rough, sir." Roberts' voice crackled over the comm. "The alien tech wants to draw more power than our systems are rated for. We've got it contained, but I don't know how many shots we'll get before something gives." Wilson nodded grimly. "Do what you can. We might only need one shot if we time it right." The ship's main viewer showed Mars growing larger. The red planet's surface was marred by new black scars where the alien weapons had struck. Smoke rose from several of the domed cities, their protective shields flickering weakly. "Message from the Mars Colonial Defense," Communications Officer Mitchell reported. "They've evacuated 60% of the civilian population to the underground shelters. They're requesting more time." "Time we don't have," Wilson muttered. He squared his shoulders. "All hands, this is the captain. In 5 minutes, we engage the enemy. Engineering, divert all non-essential power to shields and the Thunder system. Weapon crews to your stations. Medical, stand by for casualties." Throughout the massive ship, men and women rushed to their posts. In the medical bay, Dr. Rachel Cooper did a final check of her supplies. Her hands moved quickly, counting bandages, medications, and surgical tools. "Doctor," one of her nurses said softly, "the stasis units are ready." Cooper nodded grimly. The stasis units were for the worst cases, people so badly injured that freezing them was their only chance of survival. She hoped they wouldn't need them. The Defiant's engines roared as Wilson ordered full speed ahead. Behind them, the 5th and 7th fleets spread out in attack formation. The gap in the alien fleet's formation loomed ahead, a tempting target that could either be their salvation or their doom. "Weapons locked on target," reported the weapons officer. "Thunder system is hot, but engineering says we've got stability warnings." Wilson's hands gripped his chair's armrests. Years of training and experience had led to this moment. The lives of his crew, the Mars colonists, and perhaps all of humanity rested on what happened in the next few minutes. "Lieutenant Davis, send the attack plan to all ships. We hit them hard and fast. The Defiant will lead the charge. Aim for that gap in their formation. Once we're inside their lines, we launch everything we've got at their command ships. The distance to the enemy fleet ticked down. On every deck of the Defiant, crew members checked their systems one last time. In engineering, Roberts watched the Thunder weapon's power levels climb. In medical, Cooper said a quiet prayer. "All ships report ready, sir," Mitchell announced. Wilson took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide if humanity stood or fell. All ahead full. Fire on my mark. The battle for Mars was about to begin in earnest. The space around Jupiter's orbit erupted in light as the U.S. Defiant fired its first shot. The Thunder weapon came alive, sending out a blast of purple-white energy that cut through the darkness of space. Captain Wilson watched as the beam struck the nearest Meridian ship shields. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the alien vessel's shields flickered and died. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Davis shouted. "Their shields are down." The bridge crew barely had time to celebrate before the Meridians responded. Green beams of energy sliced through space toward the Defiant and her support fleet. The ship shook as enemy fire struck their shields. "Shields holding at 80%, reported the damage control officer. "But they're hitting us hard, sir." Wilson gripped his chair tighter. "Keep us on course." Engineering. Status on Thunder. Down in engineering, Michael Roberts and his team fought to keep the weapon stable. Steam hissed from overheated pipes, and warning lights flashed on every console. "We can give you 2 more shots, Captain," Roberts yelled over the noise. "After that, I'll need 5 minutes to cool the systems." The ship rocked again as another alien blast struck home. Wilson watched the tactical display, counting seconds in his head. The gap in the enemy formation was still there, but getting to it meant running straight through their fire. "All ships, focus fire on target Alpha 7, Wilson commanded. "Let's clear ourselves a path." The 5th and 7th fleets responded immediately. Missiles and energy weapons struck the designated Meridian vessel from multiple angles. The alien ship's hull cracked under the assault, pieces of its armor flying off into space. "Sir," Mitchell called from her communication station, "we're picking up alien transmissions." They sound confused. I don't think they expected Thunder to work." Wilson allowed himself a small smile. The Meridians had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt their own technology against them. That mistake was about to cost them dearly. "Thunder is ready for another shot," Roberts reported. "But the containment field is starting to fail. We need to make it count." Wilson studied the tactical display. Most of the alien ships were built for long-range combat, their weapons designed to strike from a distance. But one vessel caught his eye. A massive carrier that was launching fighter craft. "Target that carrier," he ordered. "All ships, prepare to advance the moment it goes down." The Defiant's Thunder weapon fired again. The purple-white beam seemed even brighter this time, its energy making the ship's hull creak. It struck the alien carrier dead center. The carrier's shields didn't just fail. They exploded in a cascade of energy that damaged the ship itself. "Enemy carrier is dropping out of formation," Davis reported excitedly. "Their fighter screen is in chaos. All ships, push forward," Wilson commanded. "Don't let them regroup." The human fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Regular missiles and energy weapons might not be as effective as Thunder, but there were hundreds of them. The Meridian ships, their formation broken, struggled to coordinate their defense. In the medical bay, Dr. Cooper and her team worked frantically as casualties began arriving. Most were minor injuries from the ship's violent maneuvers, but some crew members had been caught in electrical fires when enemy fire overloaded their systems. "Keep that burn unit ready," Cooper ordered her staff. "Engineering says we might see more electrical injuries." Back on the bridge, Wilson watched as his fleet pushed deeper into the enemy formation. The Meridians were falling back, their usual precise movements replaced by desperate attempts to avoid fire. "Sir," Mitchell called out, "we're getting signals from Mars. The colony's defense forces are launching a counterattack." The tactical display showed new blue dots rising from Mars' surface, the colony's defenders who had been waiting for their chance to strike back. Caught between the approaching Earth fleet and the Mars defenders, the Meridian ships began to break formation. "Thunder is ready for one last shot," Roberts reported. "After this, the system needs a full cooldown." Wilson didn't hesitate. "Target their command ship. Let's show them what happens when they threaten Earth's colonies." The Thunder weapon fired one final time. The beam struck the Meridian command ship, its shields failing spectacularly. Regular weapons fire followed, hundreds of missiles and energy beams striking the now vulnerable vessel. The Meridian command ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. Around it, other alien vessels began to retreat, their attack turning into a desperate withdrawal. "They're pulling back," Davis announced, her voice filled with disbelief and joy. "Captain, I think we've won this round." Wilson nodded, but kept his expression serious. They had won the battle for Mars, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Meridians would be back, and next time they would be ready for Thunder. But for now, they had shown the aliens a crucial truth. Humanity would not go quietly into the night. Communications officer Laura Mitchell rubbed her tired eyes as she listened to the alien transmissions. After 3 hours of non-stop monitoring, her patience finally paid off. Strange patterns in the Meridian communications began to make sense. "Captain Wilson," she called out suddenly, "I found something in their signals." Wilson walked quickly to her station. The bridge was quieter now, the crew tense but focused after their victory near Mars. "What have you got?" "Their fleet doesn't just use standard communications," Mitchell explained, pointing to her screen. "They have a second channel hidden under their main signals. It's like a nervous system. Each ship gets orders through this hidden network." Security Chief Daniel Brooks, who had been working nearby, looked up with interest. "Can we tap into it?" "Better," Mitchell smiled. "I think we can disrupt it." Wilson understood immediately what this meant. The Meridian fleet wasn't just a group of ships. It was more like a single organism. Cut off its ability to coordinate, and the whole fleet would fall into chaos. "Get Mr. Brooks everything he needs," Wilson ordered. "This could be the advantage we've been looking for." In the next hour, Brooks and his cyber warfare team worked frantically with Mitchell to understand the alien communication system. They set up a special control center in one of the Defiant's secure rooms, filling it with computers and communication equipment. "It's like a pyramid," Brooks explained to Wilson as they looked at a digital map of the alien fleet. "Each ship gets orders from the ones above it. If we can insert our own signals into their network, we can make their ships fight against each other," Wilson finished. "Do it." The chance to test their plan came sooner than expected. The Defiant sensors detected a new group of Meridian ships approaching Earth's moon. These weren't just regular warships. They were planet killers, massive vessels designed to destroy entire worlds. "They're not letting Mars slow them down," Lieutenant Davis reported from her tactical station. "They're making straight for Earth now." Wilson took a deep breath. "Mr. Brooks, is your team ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be, sir," Brooks replied. His fingers flew over his keyboard as he prepared their cyber attack. The Defiant moved to intercept the new alien fleet, along with Earth's remaining defense ships. The Thunder weapon was still cooling down, which meant they had to rely on Brooks's plan. "Launch the attack," Wilson commanded. Brooks and Mitchell worked together, sending carefully crafted signals into the alien communication network. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, the alien fleet began to show signs of confusion. "Look," Davis pointed at her tactical display. "Their formation is breaking up." On the main screen, they watched as the Meridian ships began to move erratically. Some stopped completely, while others changed course randomly. 2 alien vessels even fired on each other, their weapons causing massive damage to their own side. "It's working better than we expected," Brooks said, his eyes wide. "Their whole command structure is falling apart." The bridge crew watched in amazement as the mighty Meridian fleet dissolved into chaos. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation were now scattered and disorganized. Some began to retreat, while others continued forward but without any coordination. "All Earth ships, attack now," Wilson ordered. "Hit them while they're confused." The human fleet launched its assault. Without their perfect coordination, the Meridian ships couldn't maintain their defensive screens. Human weapons found gaps in their formation, striking critical systems and destroying key vessels. "Sir," Mitchell called out, her voice excited. "I'm picking up emergency signals from their command ship. They're trying to regain control, but their backup systems are corrupted too." Wilson nodded grimly. "Keep pushing. Don't let them regroup." The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. Without their communication network, the Meridian ships fought like wounded animals, dangerous, but unfocused and ineffective. Finally, the alien fleet began a full retreat. The massive planet killer ships turned away from Earth, their mission abandoned in the face of unexpected human ingenuity. As the last enemy ships disappeared into deep space, the bridge crew of the Defiant allowed themselves to celebrate. They had found a weakness in the seemingly invincible Meridian Empire, not in their weapons or shields, but in their reliance on perfect coordination. "Good work, everyone," Wilson said, looking proudly at his crew. "Especially you, Mitchell and Brooks. You just changed the course of this war." But even as they celebrated, Wilson knew the fight wasn't over. The Meridians would be back, and next time they would try to protect their communication network. But now, humanity knew they weren't invincible. They could be beaten, and that knowledge was worth more than any weapon. The U.S. Defiant shuddered as another alien blast struck its weakened shields. Red warning lights flashed across every deck as the mighty ship defended Earth's lunar colonies. The Meridians, angry after their earlier defeats, had launched a massive attack on the moon bases where thousands of civilians lived. "Shields down to 15%, shouted the damage control officer. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." Captain Wilson gripped his chair as the ship rocked again. Status of the lunar evacuation. Lunar Base Alpha reports 60% of civilians are in their bunkers, Lieutenant Davis reported. They need 10 more minutes to get everyone to safety. In the engine room, things were getting desperate. Engineering specialist Thomas Anderson watched in horror as the main reactor's temperature climbed into the red zone. Chief Engineer Roberts was trying everything to keep the ship's power systems running, but the constant attacks had pushed them to the breaking point. "The cooling system is failing," Roberts announced over the ship's comm. "Captain, if we don't reduce power output now, we're looking at a core breach." But reducing power meant lowering the shields, and that would doom everyone on board. Wilson faced an impossible choice. Anderson looked at the reactor readings, then at a photo taped to his console, his young daughter back on Earth. Making his decision, he grabbed his tools. "Chief," he called to Roberts, "I can stabilize the reactor manually. There's an emergency access tunnel that leads right to the cooling controls." Roberts' face went pale. "That tunnel will be flooded with radiation. It's suicide. Better one life than everyone on this ship," Anderson said firmly. "Just tell my daughter I did it for her." Before anyone could stop him, Anderson opened the access hatch and climbed in. The metal walls of the tunnel were already hot enough to burn his hands through his gloves. In the medical bay, Dr. Rachel Cooper and her team worked frantically to save the wounded. The ship's violent movements made every procedure more difficult, but they refused to give up on a single patient. "Doctor," called one of her nurses, "we're running low on pain medication." Cooper wiped sweat from her forehead, leaving a streak of blood. "Use it for the worst cases. Everyone else gets local anesthetic only. We have to make it last." Back on the bridge, Wilson watched as Anderson's vital signs appeared on a small screen. The brave engineer was getting closer to the cooling controls, but his life signs were already fading from the radiation. "Almost there." Anderson's weak voice came through the comm. "Just need to Reset the system. The reactor temperature was nearly critical. One more hit from the alien weapons would push it over the edge. The Meridian ships seemed to sense this, concentrating their fire on the Defiant's engine section. Incoming fire, Davis shouted. Multiple heavy weapons locked on us. But before the alien weapons could fire, a series of explosions rippled through their formation. Earth reinforcements had arrived, led by Admiral Thompson's flagship. The sudden attack forced the Meridians to turn their attention away from the Defiant. Reactor temperature dropping. Roberts reported, his voice filled with both joy and sorrow. Anderson did it. He reset the cooling system. On the small screen showing Anderson's vital signs, the line went flat. Wilson bowed his head for a moment. Record in the ship's log. Engineering specialist Thomas Anderson gave his life to save this ship and her crew. His sacrifice will not be forgotten. The Defiant's systems began to stabilize. With the reactor cooling, power flowed back into the shields and weapons. The ship was hurt, but she was still in the fight. Lunar Base Alpha reports all civilians secure, Davis announced. They're sealing the bunkers now. Then it's time to make the Meridians pay, Wilson said, his voice hard. All weapons target the enemy flagship. Show them the price of attacking Earth's colonies. The Defiant's weapons roared to life, joining the barrage from Earth's reinforcements. The Meridian ships, caught between the lunar defense platforms and the human fleet, began to fall one by one. In the medical bay, Cooper heard the sounds of cheering from the corridors. But she kept working, her hands steady as she treated the wounded. On her table lay one of Anderson's engineering crew, badly burned trying to help his friend reach the access tunnel. "You're going to make it," she told the injured crewman. Anderson's sacrifice made sure of that. Now it's our job to make sure it wasn't in vain. The battle for the lunar colonies had been won, but the cost had been high. Thomas Anderson's name would be added to the list of heroes who gave everything to protect humanity. His sacrifice had saved not just the Defiant, but thousands of civilian lives. And in space above the moon, the battle raged on, each explosion a reminder of the price of freedom. The U.S. Defiant hung in space above Earth, her battle-scarred hull reflecting the planet's blue glow. The ship had been through hell, but she was still fighting. Captain Wilson stood at the bridge window, looking down at his home world. The Meridian Empire's main fleet had finally arrived, and it was larger than anything they had faced before. "How many ships?" Wilson asked quietly. Lieutenant Davis checked her screens again. "Over 200 enemy vessels, sir. They're arranging themselves for a full assault on Earth." The bridge crew fell silent. They had fought hard to protect Mars and the moon colonies, but this was different. This was Earth itself, humanity's cradle, home to billions of people. "Message from Admiral Thompson," Communications Officer Mitchell announced. "All Earth ships are to form up around the Defiant." Wilson turned to face his crew. Their uniforms were dirty, their faces tired, but their eyes showed pure determination. "Send word to engineering." "How's our thunder weapon?" Chief Engineer Roberts' voice came back strong and clear. "Thunder is ready, sir. We've learned from Anderson's sacrifice. The cooling systems are working better than ever." The memory of Thomas Anderson's heroic death was still fresh in their minds. His sacrifice had saved the ship, and now they would make it count. Multiple ships launching from Earth, Davis reported excitedly. It's everyone, sir. Every ship that can fly is joining the defense." Wilson watched as his tactical display filled with blue dots. Cargo ships fitted with weapons, old military vessels pulled from retirement, even civilian ships converted for battle. Humanity was throwing everything they had into this fight. "This is Admiral Thompson to all ships." The message came through clear on all channels. "The Meridians thought they could break us. They thought we would surrender when they attacked Mars. They thought we would give up when they threatened our moon. They were wrong." In the medical bay, Dr. Cooper and her team prepared for what was coming. They had learned much about treating plasma burns and radiation injuries. This time, they were ready. They underestimated humanity. Thompson's voice continued. They didn't understand that attacking us would only make us stronger. Every colony, every ship, every person. We stand together. The Meridian fleet began to move. Their ships formed into attack patterns that had devastated other worlds. But Earth wasn't like other worlds. Its people had been fighting and surviving since they first walked upright. All ships, battle formation Delta, Wilson commanded. Concentrate fire on their lead vessels. Don't let them get close to the atmosphere. The space around Earth erupted in light as both fleets opened fire. The Defiant's thunder weapon struck first, its purple-white beam cutting through an enemy ship's shields like they weren't there. They're trying to split our formation, Davis called out. But this time, the human fleet held together. Ships that had never fought together moved like they had trained for years. In engineering, Roberts and his team pushed the engines to their limits, diverting all spare power to weapons. He shouted over the noise of machinery. This is for Anderson. The battle was unlike anything in human history. Thousands of ships, human and alien, fighting for the fate of Earth. The Meridians had superior technology, but humanity had something they didn't understand: the absolute refusal to give up. Their center formation is breaking, Mitchell announced. The cyber warfare tricks they had learned were working again. Even though the Meridians had tried to protect their communications, they couldn't completely change how their ships worked. Wilson watched as a small civilian cargo ship, its weapons barely able to scratch the alien shields, rammed itself into a Meridian vessel to protect a damaged military ship. Such sacrifice wasn't something the aliens had expected. Push forward, Wilson ordered. Don't let them regroup. The Defiant led the charge, her weapons blazing. Around her, Earth's combined fleet moved as one. Ships from different nations, different colonies, even ships that had once fought each other, all united against a common enemy. Sir, Davis said, her voice filled with pride. The Meridian fleet. They're falling back. Their formation is collapsing. The alien ships began to retreat, their perfect patterns broken by humanity's fierce resistance. They had never faced a species that fought like this, not just with weapons and ships, but with raw determination and unity. As the Meridian fleet disappeared into deep space, cheers erupted across every human ship. But Wilson knew this wasn't the end. The aliens would be back, probably with an even larger fleet. But now they knew something important. Earth would not fall. Humanity would not break. Together, they were stronger than any force in the galaxy. Send word to all ships, Wilson ordered. Tell them to stay ready. This fight isn't over yet. Captain James Wilson stood on the Defiant's bridge as his ship approached Jupiter. The giant planet storms swirled below them, creating the perfect backdrop for humanity's final stand against the Meridian Empire. Enemy fleet detected, Lieutenant Davis reported. They'd brought everything this time, sir. Over 500 ships. This was it, the Meridians' final attempt to crush Earth. After their defeats, they had gathered their entire fleet for one massive attack. But humanity was ready. All systems check, Wilson commanded. Thunder weapon at full power, Chief Engineer Roberts reported from engineering. Anderson's improvements are still holding strong. The mention of their fallen comrade's name brought a moment of silence to the bridge. Communications ready, Mitchell added. All Earth ships are linked to our network. The Defiant wasn't alone. Behind her waited the combined fleet of Earth. Over 300 ships, each one crewed by people who had learned from every previous battle. Message from Admiral Thompson, Mitchell announced. She says it's time to end this. Wilson nodded. They had spent weeks preparing for this moment. The plan was dangerous, maybe even crazy, but those were the kinds of plans that had kept humanity alive so far. Begin Operation Slingshot, Wilson ordered. The Defiant's engines roared to life as it began its carefully planned approach to Jupiter. The massive gas giant's gravity would either help them pull off the most daring move in space warfare history or tear them apart. Meridian fleet is moving to intercept, Davis reported. They don't realize what we're doing yet. The human fleet split into 3 groups, just as planned. 2 groups engaged the Meridians from different directions, while the Defiant led a smaller force toward Jupiter's dangerous gravity well. Hull stress increasing, Roberts warned. We're pushing the structural limits. In the medical bay, Dr. Cooper and her team braced themselves. They had prepared for the worst, knowing this final battle would test them all. Now, Wilson commanded as they reached the critical point. The Defiant and its escort ships cut their main engines. Jupiter's massive gravity grabbed them, accelerating them around the planet at incredible speed. Warning alarms blared as the ship groaned under the strain. Enemy fleet is reacting, Davis called out. They're trying to adjust their formation. But it was too late. The Defiant shot out of Jupiter's gravity, well like a bullet from a gun, heading straight for the heart of the Meridian fleet. Behind her, the escort ships followed, each one aimed at a different target. Thunder weapon charged and ready. Roberts shouted, "Fire everything," Wilson ordered. The Defiant's weapons erupted all at once. The Thunder weapon led the way, its purple-white beam more powerful than ever. Behind it came every missile, every energy blast the ship could produce. The Meridians had no time to react. The Defiant's impossible speed from the gravity sling brought it past their outer defenses before they could adjust. The Thunder weapon struck their flagship dead center, its shields failing instantly. "Direct hit," Davis cheered. "Their command ship is breaking up." Around them, the battle raged. Earth's other fleet groups pressed their attack, boxing the Meridian ships in. The aliens' perfect formation dissolved into chaos as their flagship exploded. "Engineering to bridge," Roberts called. "Thunder weapon is overloading. We've got one more shot, then it's done for good." Wilson didn't hesitate. "Target their secondary command ship. Let's finish this." The Thunder weapon fired one last time. Its beam seemed to draw power from the ship itself, glowing brighter than ever before. The blast hit the alien ship, cutting it in half. "Meridian fleet is in full retreat," Mitchell announced. They're running away." The bridge crew watched as the mighty Meridian fleet, terror of countless worlds, turned and fled. Ships that had once moved in perfect formation now scattered like leaves in a storm. "Message from Admiral Thompson," Mitchell said, tears in her eyes. "Just 2 words. Well done." As cheers erupted across the ship, Wilson finally allowed himself to smile. They had done it. Humanity had faced its greatest threat and emerged victorious. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. Tell them they can look up at the stars without fear now." The Defiant turned toward home, her battle-scarred hull reflecting Jupiter's light. She had started this war as humanity's newest ship, untested and uncertain. She ended it as a legend, a symbol of humanity's refusal to surrender. In the days that followed, Earth would rebuild. Mars colonies would grow stronger. The moon bases would expand. And the stars that had once seemed so threatening now beckoned with promise. Humanity had proven itself. They had shown the galaxy that Earth wasn't just another world to be conquered. It was home to a species that would never stop fighting, never stop advancing, and never, ever give up. And somewhere out there, the Meridians had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate the power of human determination.